It Takes Two. Amy Eiler, JJ Gordon is away. Jack Sunday is sitting in his spot today.
Yep, thank you.
And Don Kinzler joins us in studio. Don, welcome to KFGO Radio again.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes.
Don is the Cass County Horticulturist and from Extension, and he's been on the Drive Time News Hour with me a couple of times. And
Sure, and of course, my good, excuse me, I'm battling the same cold everybody in town has.
Everybody is.
Everybody in this couple of states. And my good friend Dave DeCock. Dave and I have known each other for, I think, 45 years. Our kids went to school together.
Aww.
Went to the same church together. Yeah, so Dave's a good friend.
And Dave will be making a reappearance on Plant Talk again this season.
Yes,
won't
he will.
You know, Don, as long as you're here, let's talk about the fact that this has been an unusual winter, little or no snow on the ground. Yay. And frigid temperatures that we are going to be experiencing. People might wonder if that's going to be a problem for perennials or shrubs and maybe even some trees.
You know, what an unusual start to winter. And my gosh, a couple inches, almost 3 inches of rain here in the Fargo area, unfrozen soil, late December. And of course, I've enjoyed not having to shovel snow. That's been nice. But for our plants, that's not really what they want, because snow is a very good insulator. It gives a blanket of protection, which, in many, many years, we'll get that blanket of protection sometime November, early December, so that when the frigid temperatures happen in late December, January, February, those plants are protected under that blanket of insulation. So some snow is good, 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. Excuse me, you don't need, 3 feet, but, some blanket is really, really good.
And now we worry because we look out at all of these plants.
I could have mowed my lawn almost.
Yes, exactly.
Yesterday. There's just no snow.
2 below, and they're exposed.
Exactly. So now the concern is that this cold is going to penetrate down in, and what's going to happen to our plants. Now, an interesting part is that the above ground portions of plants, trees, shrubs, can take a fair amount of cold. The things that are well adapted to our area can take 30 below. That's what makes them adapted. But the root system cannot take that cold. So the threshold of cold on many of our adapted shrubs and perennial flowers is about 10 degrees. Okay, so now there's a good way that we can check what the soil temperature is, and that is NDAWN, NDAWN. So if you do an online search,
North Dakota Agricultural Weather Network.
You got it. And so if you do an online search, you can see the temperature at 2 inches, 4 inches, 12 inches, all the way down to probably 8 feet. So anyway, I just checked, and that's updated for around maybe 40 sites around North Dakota and parts of Minnesota. And I just did a check. That's updated, I don't know, a couple times during the day. I just did a check, and as of 10 o'clock today in Fargo, at the 2-inch depth, it was still 25 degrees. 4-inch depth, 28 degrees. Now out in Dickinson and also up in Langdon, at the 2-inch, 4-inch depth, it's 15 degrees, 17 degrees. Well, anyway, 10 degrees is kind of a threshold. If our soil temperatures start getting 10 degrees or colder, we could see some very serious damage or death on many of our well-established trees, shrubs, and perennials. For example, even things like hosta, peonies, daylilies, we could see death if that soil temperature gets 10 degrees or colder. And so I am concerned. I mean, I'm an optimist. I think it's all going to be okay. But if we start getting temperatures, 2-inch, 4-inch, 8-inch, that are getting close to that 10 degrees, we could see death on some of our things. So in the spring of the year, if some of our things don't emerge, like perennials, we could relate that back to this cold period that doesn't have the insulating snow that it usually would. So I'm concerned. Now, is there anything we can do? If we do get a little bit of snow, you can shovel those over some of the tender perennials that you have, things you're most concerned about. If you have your great-grandmother's peony, I'd shovel a little extra snow. Now, I'm going to, tomorrow, I'm going to rake some leaves, in the corner of your yard where some of the leaves blow and catch. Okay, I can, with a pitchfork, I can still move some of those leaves. I'm going to take some of those leaves and put them over some of my tender perennials. If you have access to straw, I got that annoying tickle in my throat.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, those are my apologies. So if you have access to straw is a very good insulator. And so anything you can do, if you can, to those perennials, do so. And so I'm hoping before we get a very prolonged, deep cold period that will put that cold deep, deep, deep and continue to go deep into the soil, I'm hoping we get a little bit of snow.
Mm-hmm.
So parts of the state that do have some snow, that's a good thing.
Now, here's a tip that would come from our closing the barn door after the horses leave. Dave DeCock used to recommend that if you had large bags of leaves and grass and things like that you might want to put that
absolutely
as insulation. But that if that hasn't been done, that's a moot point. But another question I would like, I've been reading that a lot of important insects, butterflies, bees, etc., lay their eggs or whatever in the stuff on the lawn and in the garden. And so they're recommending that people really should leave some of those things on the lawn as opposed to raking them up or taking them up with your lawnmower and removing it from the soil for the preservation of certain insects.
Right. Now, that's kind of a good news, bad news type thing, where some of our dangerous, damaging insects might be killed by these temperatures, but some of the beneficial things that we depend on, they could also be damaged. But, I'm a strong advocate of leaving at least 2 inches of kind of fluff on your lawn. Leave that, don't shave the lawn so greatly. But again, like you said, you're kind of, closing the door after the horse has been stolen.
Yeah. Hey, another thing we ought to bring up. I haven't received any seed catalogs yet. Are you getting them?
Yes, I've got about 10 already.
Okay.
Yeah, and once you're on the mailing list, and those are fun. As we're looking at some cold temperatures, that really does warm and brighten the day. I love sitting with a cup of coffee, thumbing through the seed catalogs. And, there are, when I'm looking, I'm frequently asked, well, what are some of the things you look at? Well, we all love tomatoes. And one of the key things when you're shopping tomatoes, whether it's in a seed catalog or you go to the garden center, is to look at the number of days. It'll be on the tag, or in seed catalogs, it'll be in the description. And we all want good main season tomatoes. Okay, well, they all list the number of days. And if our main season tomatoes should be about 65 to 78 days, okay, that's good. If they're 80 days or longer, some tomatoes are 100 days. They're going to ripen maybe late September, October. If it's 80 days or longer, so keep in mind 80 days or longer, those are going to be late tomatoes. So it's fine to have a few of those. But if that's all you planted, you're going to be waiting a long time. So, maybe get some early tomatoes, get those main season, 65 to 78 days. And a few, but don't put all your tomato eggs in the 80 degree and 80 days and longer. And so it's kind of fun. Same thing with peppers and melons. Melons are very season dependent, so you don't want to choose something that's going to be too late for our area. Flowers are probably less dependent. And sometimes it's kind of interesting too. If you order from seed catalogs, is that cutting down our important locally owned garden centers? And really not. They've done a lot of surveying, and seed catalogs and ordering from seed catalogs actually gets people inspired, and they actually buy more, both seed from seed catalogs and the locally owned. Mm-hmm. So it all contributes to more gardening.
Hey,
and that's fun.
I love that. It is fun.
If you have seed left over, where should we store them?
Well, the spot not to do it is, when I've been guilty of this, not to put it out in your garage where it's going to be hot and humid all summer. So the best, if you haven't used all your seed, is to put it in a closed jar in the refrigerator. And one thing that really works too, those little desiccant packages that come in almost anything we order? electronics, a little. Okay, enclose that in the jar of seeds too, and then put that. You put the packet of seeds in a jar, close it, or put the desiccant package in first, and then put it in the back of the refrigerator.
That like little silica gel or whatever,
exactly.
those little packets. Yeah.
That will help keep the seeds dry.
Oh.
Sometimes they're in your shoes when you buy them.
Almost anything I've ordered has had those little packets.
And what does it do?
That helps keep the humidity down and any moisture out of those seeds.
Okay.
Because seeds, the key is cool and dry.
Yeah, I love it.
How much time do we have, Amy?
Thinking about, we have just a minute or two left.
Okay. All right. Do you have another question?
No.
Well, I've got one, and that's rabbits. With what little snow we do have,
Yes.
I'm watching rabbit tracks because this is the time of year the rabbits are going to get really hungry. And they go for shrubs, trees that are in the rose family. Okay, so naturally rose bushes, but also in that same family are apple trees, plum trees, pear trees, Juneberries. They're all in that cotoneaster. They're all in the rose family. And there's something in that bark that's very flavorful. And so watch all of those and prepare against rabbits.
Yeah, I've got cotoneasters, and I have rabbits too. But, and I love that bush, that shrub. But birds won't eat those seeds, those berries. Are they poison?
They're not poisonous. Being in the rose family, they're not poisonous, but they're not very palatable either.
Even to a bird.
Even for a bird.
Wow. Okay.
I like that. And if you haven't already, I suppose those newer trees to put that white cap over the
white
trunk.
wrapping around?
Yes.
Right,
Do you know what I'm talking?
Yeah, I do. And very important to wrap fruit trees, especially when they're young, because when we do get snow, they're susceptible to sun scald. The sun reflecting off of the bright snow can give a sunburn to the trunk the same way a skier can get a sunburn in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And so the wrapping helps two ways, both against the rabbits and also against the winter sun scald.
I did not. Okay,
Right now,
it's
my
a
yard
twofer deal.
doesn't have enough snow to give any sun scald,
Yeah.
but I still wrap the trees.
To prevent the rabbits.
Rabbits, exactly.
Yeah.
And another good question too: are there repellents for rabbits? All the repellents are hit and miss, and so the best way is exclusion with either hardware cloth, chicken wire, or a very firm wrapping.
I will say that my dogs do a great job at the rabbit repellent job.
That's maybe right along with the fencing.
Two big dogs and a fence. That'll help. It'll help.
That's great. So I'm always on the lookout for what little snow we do have. I'm watching for rabbit tracks. And as soon as they start nibbling, then I need to go into action if I haven't already protected.
That's when I buy carrots and put on my deck.
That's a good idea,
well,
too.
if we could send them all to Jack's, that's a great idea.
Well,
Let's just send them to Jack's.
That works for me.
Live trap and bring them over.
I'll print your address. I'll print your address on a carrot. How will that be?
Don Kinzler, Kinzler, the Cass County Horticulturist, and you have a blog at.
I do. It is Everybody's Yard and Garden Guide. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me at NDSU. It's donald.kinzler@ndsu.edu.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
so
Great
much.
joining you.
Yeah, it was so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.